So, what if I told you that a 2,500-year-old military manual is basically a secret weapon for modern CEOs, championship-winning coaches, and, well, top-tier strategists everywhere? We're talking about Sun Tzu's The Art of War. But here's the thing. It's one of the most famous and maybe one of the most misunderstood books ever written. I mean, with a title like The Art of War, you'd think it's just a guide to, fighting. And sure, it definitely covers battlefield tactics. But the real wisdom, the reason this thing has survived for millennia, isn't really about fighting at all.
So that brings us to the big question, right? What if the best guide to winning a war is actually a masterclass in getting what you want without ever having to fight one? That's the idea we're going to dig into today.
Okay, so to really get this book, we have to get inside Sun Tzu's head a little bit. For him, war wasn't some game or a quest for glory. No, it was a matter of life and death, with the highest stakes you can possibly imagine.
This quote right here gets to the heart of it. He's basically screaming at us, hey, before you even think about starting a conflict, you have to weigh its true cost. It's the absolute last resort. It's what happens when everything else has failed, because the consequences are so final. You've got survival on one side of the scale and total ruin on the other.
So if war is that serious, how do you even approach it? Sun Tzu's answer is kind of radical, but simple. The real victory is locked in long before the first arrow is ever fired. It's all won through careful, meticulous calculation. He lays out these 5 fundamental factors. Think of it like a pre-flight checklist for conflict. Moral influence is number 1 for a reason. Are your people and your leaders all on the same page? Because an army that doesn't believe in what it's doing is already beaten. Then you've got weather and terrain, the literal ground you're fighting on. Command, is your leadership any good? And doctrine, that's your playbook, your logistics, your rules. And here's the kicker. You have to analyze all 5 of these for yourself and for your opponent.
So the whole point is this. For Sun Tzu, a battle isn't just some chaotic mess left to chance. No, it's the logical result of doing your homework. The general who has crunched the numbers and has the better analysis has already won. The actual fighting, that's just playing it out. And this idea is perfectly wrapped up in what is probably his most famous piece of advice ever. It's not just that knowledge is power. For Sun Tzu, knowledge is security. If you truly, deeply understand your own strengths and weaknesses, and you understand your opponents just as well, you can handle any conflict without ever risking total disaster. All right, so you've done all your calculations, you know you have the upper hand. How do you actually put your plan into motion? Well, for Sun Tzu, your main weapon isn't your sword or your spear. It's your mind. And the mind's greatest weapon? Deception. He could not be more clear about this. All warfare is based on deception. This isn't just some clever little trick he keeps in his back pocket. For him, this is the absolute foundation of strategy. The goal is to literally control your opponent's perception of reality, so that they make the exact mistakes you need them to make. And he gives us these brilliant, almost poetic instructions. If your forces are right there, poised and ready to strike, you need to create the illusion that you're nowhere close. You want them to feel comfortable, to feel safe. And on the flip side, if you're actually still mobilizing miles and miles away, you create little distractions, little feints, to make them think an attack could happen any second. This keeps them totally off balance, always reacting, and they can never form a solid plan of their own. You end up controlling the whole tempo. So what this looks like in practice is you project this image of complete chaos and weakness. Your enemy looks over and sees what they want to see, a disorganized, easy target. But the whole thing is a carefully crafted illusion. It's designed to lure them into a trap, so you can strike with overwhelming force exactly when and where you want to.
Okay, now we're getting to it. This is the absolute peak of Sun Tzu's entire philosophy. This is the idea that takes the art of war from being just a military handbook to a timeless guide on strategy itself. This is it. This is the whole ballgame. He's saying, look, anybody can win with brute force. Winning 100 battles just means you had to fight 100 times. Think of the resources, the time, the lives lost. True mastery, what he calls the acme of skill, is getting what you want without any of that destruction. But how do you do that? How is that even possible? Well, Sun Tzu's answer is to change your target. You don't aim for their army. You aim for their strategy. You dismantle their plans before they can even get started. You break up their alliances so they're left all alone. You basically make the idea of fighting you seem so pointless that they have no other choice but to give up.
He even gives us this super clear hierarchy. I mean, look at this. The absolute best thing you can do is outthink your opponent. The next best is to isolate them. Attacking their army directly, that's already a third-rate option, and the absolute worst thing you can possibly do, a bloody, costly siege on a fortified city. Actual fighting is basically a sign that your better strategies have already failed. Okay, so this is all really fascinating as military history, right? But what does any of this mean for us today in our world of boardrooms and negotiations and even just our personal goals? This is where Sun Tzu's genius really shines. These principles translate so perfectly. Before you launch a new product, know the market, your competition, and yourself, inside and out. In a negotiation, don't just charge straight ahead. Find that indirect path that gets you what you want. And always remember, a victory that leaves you bankrupt is not a victory. The ultimate goal is to shape the situation so that you've already won before the battle even starts. And that's really the final takeaway, isn't it? We tend to think of strategy as a series of clever moves, but Sun Tzu teaches us that real true strategy is about shaping the whole environment, the terrain, so to speak, so that there's only one logical move left for everyone to make, and that move is the one that leads to your success. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. Whether it's a difficult conversation you've been putting off, a big career challenge, or some competitive project, where can you apply this stuff? Where is the path to winning, not through a direct fight, but by making that fight totally unnecessary? That is the art of war.